To today's episode of Biz Jet TV. It's number 500. It's the 500th episode of Biz Jet TV. Those of you that have been following the channel for a while, congratulations for coming along on this journey with me. And I really do appreciate you taking time to watch Biz Jet TV. And remember to give me a super thanks, quite a lot of super thanks on this episode because it's number 500 and we're going to keep going to infinity and beyond here on Biz Jet TV. So today we're going to be talking about a little bit about the history of private aviation and private jets, and then take you through how the whole private jet industry developed and where it's going for the future. So the private jet industry really started in the 1960s, and it was Bill Lear with his Lear 23 that really started this whole private jet thing. And everybody's the word Learjet is synonymous with a private jet. And in the beginning we saw a lot of celebrities flying with private jets. I did do an episode recently about Elvis Presley's private jet, and you can click on the link above if you go and see that because this was recently out for sale. So Elvis Presley was one of the first celebrities to fly around on a private jet. It was very popular in Hollywood, also very popular with governments. I mean, the Boeing 707 in the 1960s was kitted out as a private jet for that was the first Air Force One, which is flying around the President of the United States. Today they use a Boeing 747. So that's how it started, 60s and 70s, very much the celebrities. And then in the 1980s, this is when the entrepreneurs started flying, the business people started flying. They started to realize that the private jet could be a business tool. The whole story of Walmart is interesting with Sam Walton. If you haven't read the biography of Sam Walton, or even check on the video that I did about Walmart and how they use private jets, you can click on that link as well. And that's interesting how he built his company by using private aviation. And today Walmart operate over 30 private jets, and that's how they manage to keep the prices of groceries down at the stores because of they use private jets. So this is how kind of the industry has changed. We've seen a number of also different formulas for private jet flying with the advent of fractional ownership, for example, which started just before 9/11 and then took off, excuse the pun, really rapidly after 9/11. When NetJets really started to gain a big foothold inside the private jet industry. And then we had FlexJet come along, which initially was set up by Bombardier and then taken over by Ken Ritchie and his team. And so those two kind of compete head to head. Very good operators. Their aircraft are new, they're very well maintained, very well flown. Pilots are trained well. So that's very good for the industry. And then we've seen jet cards as well, where you can buy a jet card with so many hours on, and that gives you access to a number of jets. That's also been happening. And we've seen also the evolution of these aircraft, in particular the avionics and the cabin amenities and the range. I mean, initially the Learjets had like 1,200, 1,300 nautical mile range, and now these aircraft have 7,500 to 8,000 nautical mile ranges. Some people have even bought a Boeing 777. I mean, I sold a 777 to an individual a few years ago. We took all the interior out. It was an airline interior, and put a basic flying apartment in there. That airplane has a ton of range. You can fly anywhere in the world with that airplane, and you're in your flying apartment. So this is kind of where we've gone, and the avionics compared to back in the day when I started flying private jets in 1992. This Citation 1, which is my first jet. And you look at the avionics today that go into a Honda jet, for example. I mean, it's just amazing. It's amazing the evolution and how that has increased flight safety by increasing the situation awareness for the pilots, allowing also to project the runway onto the screen of the airplane, so you can land with zero visibility. You don't need to see the runway outside because the runway is actually projected on the windscreen. Falcon Eye doing this, does so with their Falcon Eye. Gulfstream are doing it with their avionics. So Bombardier. So we've seen a lot of developments there. And now, of course, we've got Wi-Fi in airplanes, Starlink with Elon Musk being rolled out into a number of different private jets. So your internet speed is going to be just as good, if not better, than what you have at home on your private jet as you fly along. But the only thing that really hasn't increased is speed. Now, speed has increased a little bit. I mean, some of the newer jets now flying cruises of 0.92. The Bombardier Global 8000 even went past the sound barrier during flight testing, but we're still not faster than sound. And I think this is going to be the next step. We're going to be going faster than sound. We're going to see these private jets like Mark 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe even 10 as the technology develops. Speed is really the next thing. And I also think, we're going to see rocket travel. And Elon Musk has talked about this, from anywhere to anywhere in less than an hour in a rocket. Of course, you can't take off on a rocket from downtown London or New York. There will be certain locations around the world. I think there's probably going to be about 30 locations where they'll be able to launch these rockets and go from, London to Shanghai in 35 minutes by just going up and down in the rocket. And, we've seen this already with actor William Shatner, who played Captain Kirk in Star Trek, the original series, in his 90s, go up into space, even though it was for a few minutes, and down. So, he could fly up on one of those rockets. So I think that's going to open up. And there's a number of companies doing that right now, between Jeff Bezos with his Blue Origin, which is where William Shatner flew with them, and then you've got obviously SpaceX with Elon Musk, and there's a few other companies out there as well. So it's interesting to see that development. But going back to the airplane thing, so it's coming back down further closer to the ground with the private jets. We've got the manufacturers head to head here between Bombardier and Gulfstream. We've seen Dassault develop some very interesting airplanes with the Falcon 6X and the Falcon 10X. In fact, check the video I did recently about the Falcon 10X. I think that's going to be an absolute winner and one to watch with the developments in technology they've done for that airplane. It will start flying next year. And it'd be interesting to see during flight testing if this airplane actually goes faster than Mark 1. I think they're probably going to push it. And because Dassault build fighter jets, I can see them, pushing this thing past Mach 1 and maybe even certifying it to fly at the speed of sound as its max speed. That would be an interesting one, and certainly an extra few brownie points for them in selling the aircraft. So interesting to see all these developments. Avionics is a big thing. As I said, there's been talk about single pilot operations, and we've seen, the Pilatus PC-24, the Embraer Phenom 300, which are very popular single pilot aircraft with 2,000 mile range. That's been interesting coming to the market. Honda now are looking to build the Honda 2600, which is going to have 2,600 nautical mile range, which means you can go from LA to New York. Just single pilot, so that's going to be interesting. But will these airplanes fly single pilot? Because it's always a good idea to have another pilot on board. What's going to happen with AI? How is AI going to develop? And I think AI is going to become the new co-pilot, a bit like when Luke Skywalker flies on his starfighter. He's got R2D2, which acts as his co-pilot. I think we're going to see probably one pilot airplane with a form of AI acting as the co-pilot. And actually talking and communicating with a human pilot. I think we're going to see this, or we could even see pilots being able to fly the airplane remotely, and so come in as a co-pilot remotely, and maybe using holograms and things like that. I think this is the kind of thing we're going to see in the next 10 to 15 years. I think there's going to be changes in flight simulation as well. We've already seen this with the use of virtual reality. So I think we won't be traveling all the way to Dallas from London to spend 5 days in the simulator to renew our Gulfstream G550 rating. We'll be able to do that from the comfort of our own homes by using virtual reality and climbing into the simulator virtually and doing everything. And that will allow also the AI to monitor the pilot, see the pilot's performance, see where the pilot's weaknesses are, and run a number of training scenarios for that pilot to improve. And this is going to improve flight safety tremendously, because the cost of training is going to come down like a rock, and the number of training sessions that pilots will be able to do, because you can do it in your own time in your own home. So pilots will be climbing into the simulator once a week, or maybe even more than once a week, and training inside the virtual reality system, and then going and doing their flying. So I think this is where we're going. So I see time ahead is going to be very interesting. Of course, with all the lockdowns and COVID, the industry has grown by 10-15%. We saw this kind of growth happen after 9/11 with NetJets. In fact, NetJets have actually decided to increase their fleet by 30%. So they're kind of seeing where this is going. There's going to be more and more people are going to be are already traveling by private jet, and that's going to increase. And the interesting thing that I have noticed is that there's an increase now in people learning to fly and going out and buying their own airplane and flying themselves from business meeting to business meeting. So the pilot owner market is increasing, particularly in the United States, where there are lots and lots of airports. You can even buy yourself a Mooney or a PC-12, or go and buy yourself a a Honda jet and fly yourself around. This is becoming, easier to do because of the avionics and the technology. So it's easy to be able to do this. And of course, the costs and everything of these jets has come down quite a bit compared to how much people are making. And so, this is just becoming more accessible to people. And also, let's have a look at how the eVTOL market's going to go, the electrical vertical takeoff and landing. I think we're going to be seeing those machines come onto the market in the next 10 years. And that's going to be used for short travel, in between cities, but also inside cities or just from the suburbs into the city. We're going to see a lot of this travel happen. And this obviously with the goal of being able to save time by traveling from A to B through the air instead of going by car and getting caught in traffic jams. So I think we're going to see the eVTOL market come. I mean, there's 500 projects right now, as I wrote in my article in Avbuyer magazine. You can click below on the link there, which will take you to my articles in Avbuyer magazine. And there I did a whole series on the eVTOL market and where I think it's going. There's 500 projects right now, and I think probably 15 to 20 of these will actually come to market. The rest will just fall by the wayside. But these 15, 20 will start building a lot of these machines, and we'll see them flying around the world, and particularly in the cities and connecting, flying cargo. I see very great utility in places like Indonesia and the Philippines, where they struggle to get stuff from island to island. It takes time, or it's very costly to do by helicopter, or in places like down in Africa, where they have to get gold from the mine to the port or to the airport through the jungle, and that is very often difficult to do, and also very dangerous because of the pirates and the criminals that try and steal the gold. So you just stick it on one of these eVTOLs and you can get it from A to B very quickly at a very low cost. So these are the things that are coming for the future. So I hope you enjoyed this video. And also another thing that's coming for the future, is coming in March this year, is my book, The Quantum Economy, is being published worldwide. We'll be talking about the quantum economy on Biz Jet TV. And this is being, as I said, being published worldwide at the same time. So if you haven't subscribed to Biz Jet TV, so I encourage you to subscribe. You're hearing about where you'll be able to get the book and when you can order the book, which will be coming shortly. All about the future of the economy and how the private jet is going to play an important role in this. I've done a deal with Austin Macaulay, publisher in London, to do this and distribute the book worldwide for you and for your associates and that, to sort of spread the word on the business of private jets and how the private jet is a great business tool. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Biz Jet TV. I'd like to hear from you what your comments are, and please give me a super chat here. We have lots of super chats here on the on this episode number 500 of Biz Jet TV, and I'd like your recommendations, suggestions for future episodes of Biz Jet TV. And that's all from Fabrizio Poli, and I'll see you on the next one.